Hello students, welcome back to all of you to today's class. In the previous class we have read monkey's paw. That is, I had told you that only 2 pages, up to page number 63 it was taught to you, Mr. White. So Major Morris was showing the paw and the whites were asking what is the special thing regarding the paw. Understood? So now without wasting time, let's start it. So, and Mr. White, Mrs. White, Hobart. Mr. White and Mrs. White couple, husband and wife. Hobart is their only son of 19 years old. And Major Morris was a British, means he was working in British army, but he was in India because at that time India was under the control of Britishers. से समय इंग्लिश माने भारत रे शासन करथिले सेति पई मेजर मोरिस ब्रिटिश आर्मी रे थिले किंतु से भारत रे रहथिले माने भारत रे जो ब्रिटिश आर्मी थिला सेतिरे मेजर मोरिस थिले. Got it? Now listen. Now Morris is speaking solemnly, means seriously Major Morris is speaking. It had a spell put on it by an old holy man. So the monkey's paw is also shown by Major Morris, and then he is speaking that there was a holy man and he did put a magic spell on the monkey's paw. जे जने होली मैन जने साधु व्यक्ति कौन करछंती से monkeys paw रे किछि गोटे जादू शक्ति देछंती, मैजिक स्पेल देछंती. He wanted to show that fate ruled people's life. एवं से जो साधु व्यक्ति जनक से कौन कहिया को चाहुथिले जे आमे समस्ते भाग्य हातरे खेलना, आमे समस्ते भाग्यर निर्देश अनुसार ही काम करूछु, and that anyone who tried to interfere with fate would be sorry, and people who wish to interfere in the work of the destiny they will feel sorry for it. माने आमे जदि आम भाग्य को बदलैबा को चेष्टा करिबा, माने जोटा जेमती होची सेमिति हबा को न दे किछि आर्टिफिशियल करिया को चेष्टा करिबा ताहाले एट द एंड ऑफ द डे वी विल फील सॉरी फॉर इट. आमे शेषरे एथि पई दुख प्रकाश करिबा. He put a magic spell on the paw so that 3 people could each have 3 wishes from it. So what did he do? से मांकड़ जो पंजरे द पाव रे गोटे विश माने गोटे मैजिक स्पेल देले जो थरे कि 3 जण व्यक्ति जण जणकर 3टा विश, मीन्स टोटल हाउ मेनी विश, 3 जणकर 9टी विश फुलफिल होई परिबो. इज इट क्लियर? Mr. White laughs uneasily. Uneasily means what? Means you don't have the desire to smile but still you are smiling, means pressurized smile. So Mr. White was not having any desire to smile but he was smiling. Hobart, well, why don't you wish on it then? Morris, sadly I have. Mrs. White, and did you really have your 3 wishes granted? Morris, yes I did. Then Herbert is speaking, if this is so, जदि एमिति किछि अछि then why didn't you means get your wishes? आपण कहीं आपनकर विश फुलफिल करलेनी. Then Morris is speaking that yes I did it. Then Mrs. White is speaking that is there anyone else who did wish on this monkey's paw? आउ एमिति के लोक अछंती कि जो माने के monkey's paw एमिति धरि कि विश करछंती. Morris, seriously, the first owner had 3 wishes. Yes, I don't know what the first 2 wishes for, but the third was for death. That's how I got the paw. Then Major Morris is speaking, yes, the first owner got the 3 wishes fulfilled, but he didn't know what are the wishes of the other, means what were his first wishes, but the last wish was for death. जे मेजर मोरिस कहउछंती जे प्रथम जण व्यक्ति से भी 3टा विश करथिले, प्रथम 2टा विश कोन से जानि नाहंती किंतु तांकर शेष विशटी डेथ पई थिला. He wanted his own death. Got it? So when the first owner died, ultimately that monkey's paw came to Major Morris. Mr. White, after a pause, and listen, here this is actually in one-act play. So in one-act play, always remember everything will be written, means everything will be verbally communicated. Look, here it is mentioned after a pause, means there was silence, and seriously means he was looking serious at that time. So all this mood, all these things will be mentioned properly. And if you have had your 3 wishes, that things no good to you now, then Morris, what do you keep it for? Then Mr. White is speaking, really? If you did get all your 3 wishes, then why did you keep the thing? Give it to me. Means here, remember one thing, someone is speaking that this is not good and the magic spell is there, and the people who wanted to fulfill their wish against nature, they will feel sorry for it. But still, Mr. White, he was speaking again and again, give it to me, give it to me. And Morris, shaking his head and shrugging. Shaking his head means, एमती मुंड हले, shrugging means, आम एमती करुचे, means आम shoulder को up करुचे, this one is known as shrugging. Shrugging, no good reason. I guess I did have some idea of selling it, but I don't think I will. It's caused enough trouble already. Besides, no one will buy it. Some people think it's just a fairy tale, and the ones who do think anything of it want to try it first and pay me afterward. Then Mr. Major Morris is speaking that, no, really I wanted to sell it. But the thing is that people, they don't trust it. People do think that this is just like a fairy tale. लोक माने विश्वास करना जे monkeys परे wishes fulfill हबो. से माने भाबुछन जे एडी गोटे परी राइजर कहानी. एवं some people, those who are interested to buy it, they want to use it first and they will pay me after it. एवं किछि लोक जो माने कि विश्वास करूछन्ती से माने कोन चाहुछन्ती जे से माने प्रथमे monkeys प नेबे यूज करबे ता परे मते पे करबे. Got it? Herbert, if you could have another 3 wishes, would you use them? Morris, I don't know, I don't know. Then Herbert is speaking, okay, alright, but if you can fulfill your 3 wishes, more 3 wishes, will you use it? Major Morris is speaking, I don't know, I don't know. He takes the paw, dangles it between his finger and thumb. And just a minute. It is mentioned, he takes the paw. Means who did take the paw? That Major Morris. Okay, so till that time means that paw was there, but Major Morris did take it once again, and here dangles it between his finger and thumb. And what did he do? He just dangles it. So just think, suppose this one is monkey's paw. Take the example. Okay, Major Morris did take this one and just hold it. Dangle means what? Hanging, jhulaiba. Dangle it between his finger and thumb. Likewise, he did dangle it. Se tanko emti jhuleile, jhule sari kon kale, then suddenly throw it into the fire. Emti dharitile, suddenly niyare phopadi dele. Got the point? And here, what is mentioned? It's written that Mr. White, hey, he jumps and grabs the paw out of the fire before it starts to burn. Then what did happen? Mr. White jumped into the, means he just jumped there and captured the monkey's paw before it starts burning. Morris, solemn means calmly Major Morris is speaking, better, let it burn. Joliba ko deithanda, podi jaithanda monkey's paw ta. Mr. White, if you don't want it, Morris, give it to me. Then Mr. White is speaking that Major Morris, if you don't want this paw, give it to me. Means Abel, mujhe mar. Understood? So the same thing is being done by Mr. White. Means he was inviting his own bad luck by taking the monkey's paw. Because listen, Morris 1000 times he has spoken that this paw has already created lots of trouble. So he doesn't want to keep it. He wanted to get rid of it. But still, Mr. White wanted to have that monkey's paw again and again. And that's the main reason that why he did suffer. And Morris, stubbornly means what? Means firmly resisting, means strongly oppose kariba. I won't. I threw it on the fire. If you keep it, don't blame me for what happens. If you are smart, you will throw it back in the fire. Then Morris is speaking, I want to destroy it. You did save the monkey's paw. But if something wrong is happening, later don't blame me. Who is speaking? Major Morris is speaking. Means Major Morris निजे झाड़ी जुड़ी की बस पड़ले जे मु ताकु नष्ट कर देवा को जाउथली तो से monkey's paw को रखिछु आ जदी तमे रखिछो जदी तमर किछि क्षति होछि मते निंदा करबोनी. ओके, so Mr. White shaking his head and looking closely at the paw, how do you do it? Then Mr. White is speaking, no, I am not going to blame you. Then he is asking, how do you do it? Means how do you wish? Morris, hold it in your right hand and wish it loud. And what is Major Morris speaking? Hold it in your right hand. Dahana hatare dharibo and dahana hatare dharla pare kon karibo? You will wish it loudly. Got the point? Just a minute. Suppose this is the monkey's paw. Okay. So Major Morris is speaking upright. Dahana hathare emti dharibo, dhariki tame wish karibo. But I am warning you, you won't like the consequences. Here consequences means what? Result. But Major Morris is speaking again and again, you will wish, you will get the wish, but you won't like the consequences. Tahara result jaha habo tamaku definitely bhalo lagibo nahi. And Mrs. White sounds like the Arabian Nights. Do you know what is Arabian Nights? There was a TV serial. Right now it might be telecasted in some channel, I don't know exactly. Alif Leila. That Alibaba Chalis Chor story was there. Did you ever watch it? If it's okay, otherwise you can search for that one. So there means that Sinbad, okay, the character. Sinbad is there and he used to save people from the danger, and there were demons and they also used to put people in trouble. Okay, so the stories of Arabic. Got the point? So here Arabian Nights means here some moral stories are there, means even when you try to change something which is certain, then definitely you are going to be punished for it. Then Mrs. White is speaking that it sounds like Arabian Nights story. Je Arabian Nights story bhale laguchi. Why don't you wish for a few extra pairs of hand for me? Then Mrs. White is speaking, why don't you wish some extra pair of hands for me? Means Mrs. White is eti kohuchundi तुमे कहीं मो आउ 6-7टा हाथ विश करूनो, means so that she can do the work. She gets up to set the table for supper. Mr. White starts to raise his arm and Morris, alarm, jumps forward to stop him. The three Whites laugh. So in the meantime what happened? Mrs. White went for the supper. Okay, by the way, what do you mean by supper? Supper means soiba purbaru, the light meal that we take, that one is known as the supper. What are we doing? We are taking heavy meal before going to sleep. So many times. Okay. We are eating biryani, etc., etc. Everything we are eating. But that is not supper, that is dinner. Supper is being taken after dinner. Got it? That is the light food you have to take before you go to bed. So, she went for the supper and Mr. White, he just rose his hand and started wishing. And what was the wish? The wish was for some extra pairs of hand for his wife. And in the meantime, Major Morris was also sitting there. He just jumped and stopped Mr. White. And at this time, all the three Whites, they started laughing. And Morris, if you must wish, for heaven's sake, wish for something sensible, but I don't want to be here to see it. Then Major Morris is speaking that if you really want to wish something sensible, wish something which is good, but I don't want to stay here because I don't want to see the result. Morris. The four. So, listen, after this one, as this is an one-act play, so after this, the scene means the particular surrounding is also mentioned here. Okay. So, what is written? The four sit down and eat supper. So, the four, they did sit down, they did take their supper. The monkey's paw forgotten for the moment, and everyone did forget about the monkey's paw. The Whites listen eagerly to more of Morris's adventures. After supper, Morris raises Mr. White, accompanies him to the door, and they say their goodbyes. Mr. White returns to the fireside and sits down. So here listen, as I told you, this is an one-act play. That's why all the activities also will be mentioned. So here, semane samaste basile, ratri bhojano kale, और समस्ते से मंकीज पॉ विषय भूली जाइथिले. तापरे मेजर मोरिस खाई पी सारिकी तांको घर को जीवा को बाहरले. मिस्टर व्हाइट एज ए मैनर मीन्स एज ए कर्टसी व्हाट ही डिड से तांको पाखु तांको सहित डोर जाई गले तांको गुड बाय जणाइले. तापरे तीन जन जाक व्हाइट्स मीन्स द मदर फादर एंड द सन दे स्टार्टेड सिटिंग नियर द फायरप्लेस. Herbert, well, Morris is quite a storyteller. For a minute there he almost had me believing that one about the monkey's paw. Then Herbert is speaking that Major Morris is an excellent storyteller because for some time he was able to make me into confidence. Means for him only I was able to believe regarding the monkey's paw. And Mrs. White, did you give the disgusting thing back to him? Mr. White, I tried to, but he would not take it, and he told me again to get rid of it. Then Mrs. White is speaking, did you get rid of that disgusting thing? It's normal. That was quite disgusting because monkey's paw ମାଙ୍କଡ଼ର ଗୋଟେ ହାତଟେ ଶୁଖିକି ଘରେ ଥିବ. Definitely everyone will speak and some people will also scared of it. So here the same thing is spoken by Mrs. White that ତମେ ସେ disgusting thing ଟାକୁ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଦେଇଦେଲ କି, but Mr. White is speaking that ସେ ନେଲେ ନାହିଁ ଏବଂ ମୋତେ କହିଲେ ଆଠୁ ଦୂରେ ରହ, means ଆକୁ କେମିତି ତମେ destroy କରିଦେବ, get rid of it. And Herbert in mock horror. Then Herbert, 19 years old boy, is speaking, get rid of it. What did you say? We will get rid of this monkey's paw and give up a chance to be rich and famous and happy. Okay, we will give up that monkey's paw and then we will give up the chance. Means we will get rid of the monkey's paw and we will give up the chance to be happy and to be rich. Wish to be an emperor. Dad. Herbert is speaking, Dad, wish to be an emperor. Gote samrat ha pai wish karo. To start up with them. Mom can't boss you around. Who is the boss of your family? Means home? Your mother. Mostly. Okay. So, here the same thing is also mentioned. It means Mrs. White was quite dominating over Mr. White. Means the wife was dominating the husband. So, here Herbert has spoken not indirectly, directly that, Papa, तमे wish करो गोटे emperor हो, so that mama और तुम अपने bossism देखी परिवनी. Understood? Mr. White, thanks a lot. Then Mr. White, for this advice, he is speaking, okay Herbert, thank you very much. Mr. White, taking the paw from his pocket and looking at it doubtfully. Then once again, Mr. White take the paw from his pocket and just looked at it doubtfully. With lots of doubt, he started looking at the monkey's paw. Just like this. Because he was thinking something. I don't know what to wish for, and that's a fact. Then he's speaking, I really don't know what to wish. ମୁଁ ପ୍ରକୃତରେ ଜାଣିନି ମୁଁ କ'ଣ wish କରିବି. Looking fondly at his wife and son, and with lots of love and affection, he's looking at his wife and looking at his son. Okay? It seems to me I have got all I want. And he's speaking that I feel I have got everything in my life that I desire for. Who is speaking? Mr. White. It means directly Mr. White had spoken that he is satisfied with his life and he is happily living with his wife and son and he doesn't need anything to fulfill some wishes. Herbert, you'd like to pay up the mortgage, though would not you? Well, wish for 200 pounds, then that will do it. Then Herbert is speaking, okay Dad, you have the mortgage. Mortgage means what? माने किछि गोटे बंधा रखी पैसा आने को मॉर्गेज कह जाए. ओके, सो हर्बर्ट इज स्पीकिंग, यू हैव टू पे अप द मॉर्गेज. तुमको मॉर्गेज टा पे करिया पड़िबो. नाउ यू डू वन थिंग, विश फॉर 200 पाउंड्स. 200 पाउंड पई विश करो. मिस्टर वाइट, दिस इज रिडिकुलस. स्माइलिंग सेमफेसली, नो हार्म ट्राइंग, दो आई सपोज तुम पाखे एमती गोटे मांकड़ पंछा था, गोटे मंकीस प था, तमें तुम घरे कही था जे आम 1000 टंका पाखे बाकी अच्छु आउ 1000 टंका विश कर. तुम कौन तुम कही था 100-200 crore दरकार. yes or no? So here Mr. White is speaking ridiculous, means hasyaspad, and he started smiling as if he is feeling ashamed to ask for 200 pounds. Still he is speaking, okay, let's try it. He holds up the paw as Herbert taps a drum roll on the table with his hands. And Mr. White, listen, you just try to imagine it so that you can understand. Mr. White was holding like this, okay, and Herbert started drumming on the table. Sometimes we are drumming now, and he was drumming it in a dramatic way, means tick 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 tick, means ending. Understood? Mr. White loudly, I wished for 200 pounds, and Mr. White did, no, I am not holding the monkey's paw. I am not going to have any wish also. Who will hold that monkey's paw here? से माकड़ पंजा गंधिया है कि पची जाइथिबो ताकि धरिबो. So Mr. White is speaking, I wish for 200 pounds. Herbert finishes with a dramatic flourish, and as I told that, dum 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 dum, dramatic flourish. In a dramatic way, Herbert completed the drumming. Mr. White cries out, shuddering, and drops the paw. His wife and son run towards him, and Mr. White gave a loud wail, and he was trembling. He fell down, and his wife and son run to him. Mr. White, it moved. When I wished, it twisted in my hand. like a snake, and Mr. White is speaking that when I whisked, it moved in my hand. Means this monkey's paw just moved like this. Okay, and it twisted, it was bent just like a snake. And Herbert, well, I don't see the money and I bet I never will. He picks up the paw and puts it on the table. Then Herbert, what did he do? He just picked up the paw and placed it on the table. And here, one sentence is being spoken by Herbert. And what is that? Well, I don't see the money. ମୁଁ ତ ପଇସା କୋଉଠି ଅଛି ଦେଖିପାରୁନି. And I bet ମାନେ କ'ଣ? Challenge କରିବା. ମୁଁ challenge କରୁଛି. I never will. Here, near I, shall is not used. Will is used. And when you are using I will, it is referring to surety. I will do this work for you means ଝଡ଼ ତୋଫାନ cyclone ଯାହା ବି ହଉ ତମ କରିବ. Because I will means surety in the case of ଝଡ଼ ତୋଫାନ. In the case I just told you to understand. Means I will means it is referring to surety. Understood the point? And here what is mentioned, Herbert कहूँ जे मु challenge करूँ मु केबे भी पैसा देखि परिबे नहीं. So here what does it mean? It is having a negative opinion. Means Herbert has given a negative opinion on it. Herbert, Mr. White, sorry Mrs. White, to Mr. White anxiously, you must have imagined it. Mr. White, shaking his head, I felt it move, never mind, though I am all right. Then Mrs. White is speaking, you must have imagined it. Then Mr. White is speaking, no, I didn't imagine it, it's true. Mr. White, shaking his head, no, I am all right, but it really moved in my hand. Who is speaking? Mr. White is speaking. They sit down by the fire. A depressing silence settles over them. Then once again the scene is mentioned. They all started sitting silently. There was a depressing silence. All silence was there. The howling of the wind means what? The sound of the windfall. Okay. Pavanara su shabda. It was audible. Grows louder. Dhire dhire badhutila pavanara su shabda. A door bangs, startling them all. Herbert laughs. And suddenly there was the banging of door. Mane door re kichi knocking sound hela. Okay. And samaste pura hadbade gale. Dori gale tike. And Herbert started laughing. And Mr. White, I don't know why we listen to that nonsense. How could wishes be granted in real life? And if they could, how could 200 pounds hurt you anyway? Then Mrs. White is speaking that, I really don't understand. Why did you listen to that nonsense person? Who is speaking? Mrs. White कहउछन जे आमे काहेकि से नॉनसेंस लोकडार कथा सुनिले रियल लाइफ रे विशेष केमती फुलफिल हबो इज इट पॉसिबल आ जदी भी फुलफिल हबो 200 पाउंड कहार कोन क्षति करिवो इट मींस इट वाज नॉट ए बिग सम Herbert, it could drop on his head from the sky. Understood? So Herbert was in the mood of fun. The mama is speaking, the mother is speaking. 200 pound केमती तमरो क्षति करिवो Herbert कहउछि क्षति हबो ना आकाशरू तो मुंड उपरे पड़ जिवो you will get the injury. Indirectly he is speaking the same thing. And Mr. White, Morris said the things happened in so naturally that you might think it was coincident. Then Mr. White is speaking, but no. Morris told that things will happen so naturally that you will feel that this is a coincidence only. Mrs. White, well, I have had enough of magic and fate and monkey's paw. For one night, it's time for bed. Then the wife got irritated and said, okay, ठीक अच्छे ये राति पाई monkey's paw magic सब कुछ बहुत ही गला चलो सोइबो. Means straightforwardly she is speaking. Herbert, well, good night then, teasing. Then Herbert is speaking, Mama, Papa, good night, paisa paibo, okay. You will probably find the money tied up in a big bag in the middle of your bed. And what is he speaking? He is speaking that you will find the money in the middle of your bed. तुमरा बेड रा मझिरे पाइबो गोटे बड्ड बैग रे से 200 पाउंड थिबो. Dead and some horrible creatures squatting up on top of the dresser. Dresser means what? It is just like a shelf, furniture like item. Watching you as you pocket your ill-gotten money. And dead and some creatures. केते गुडे जीवजंतु, केते गुडे जंतु से माने कोन करथिबे स्क्वाटिंग मीन्स व्हाट सिट ऑन हिल माने गोइठी रे बसिबा ओके से माने गोइठी रे बसिथिबे गोइठी काई बसिबे बिकॉज़ इफ यू आर सिटिंग ऑन द हिल इट्स क्वाइट पेनफुल सो मीन्स यू विल फील पेन दे विल सिट ऑन द हिल्स ओके एंड ऑन द टॉप ऑफ द ड्रेसर से सेल्फ रो ऊपर से माने बसिके देखिबे तमें केमिति ए जो असत उपाय पैसा को तमें निजर कर पैसा तमें रोजगार करुछ गॉट इट अंडरस्टूड सो विथ दिस योर scene 1 is completely over. In the next class we are going to read scene 2 and scene 3 because it's quite short. I think we can complete it in 3 classes. We have to complete. Got it? So you just read it. If you are having any doubt, you can ask me. Otherwise you can ask in Telegram channel as well as in WhatsApp. So till that time, tomorrow I am going to post the unit 2 and 3. All the best. Have a nice time. Read well. Okay.